Hey, morning guys, got another video for you to help you out. This one is on union intersection. So when you see a symbol that is a U, that stands for union. When it's the upside down U, that stands for the intersection. So pretty easy problems to start with, and then it just gets worse. Let's say you got a set of numbers for A, you got a set of numbers for B. Let's do union first. So if your question is A union B, it'll look like this. So A union B, and you have to figure out what that is. Union wants everything. So it wants it all covered. It wants everything in A, it wants everything in B represented. And you got to put it in order. So everything in A, everything would be in order, would look like this. You'd start with 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14. And that covers everything in the sets of A and B. So that's what union is. It wants all of it. Now the intersection, the upside down U, so let's say you had A intersect B, when it's upside down, that's just the ones that are in common. So when you look at your two sets, you think, well, what number's in common? I've got an 8 that's in common, I've got a 10 that's in common. That's it, just 8 and 10. So that would be your two answers here. It would be, here's 8, here's 10. So again, union wants it all. Intersection just wants the guys in common. Oh, and one other thing on the union, you don't have to repeat yourself. So when we did all of them, notice how you have an 8 and an 8 and a 10 and a 10. You only write it one time, you only write it one time. So that's union and intersection, the easier problems. It gets a little harder with these graphs. Let's do some of these. All right, here we go. We'll call all that number 1. We'll say this is number 2 right here. X plus 1. And X minus 2. Okay, so we've got some problems today. There are and problems, or problems. So two different types. These are the and problems. So we have inequality to solve, inequality solve. We're pretty good at that. Let's just solve it real quick. So there's one inequality that you solve for. You got to run over here and solve this one. Okay, and again, this is an and problem. So we've got to look at line graphs. After you solve it and you solve it, let's draw our little line graphs. And we like drawing line graphs. You just put a little 8, then you got to decide which way am I shading. It's less than, so I'm shading this direction. I'm making the giant arrow. It's got an equal to on there. The equal to implies, hey, perfectly straight bracket. Over here, line graph, 5. This is greater than, so I'm shading whoosh, out to the right. Shading this way, making giant arrow, and this is greater than. So if it's a greater than, we got to go this direction. The equal to means straight bracket. So here we go, equal to, straight bracket, equal to, straight bracket. Now, this word is and, so when we put our line graphs together, the way I always remember this is and wants the overlap. So when I look at these two graphs, I just want to represent the overlap of them, which is, where are we at here? This is an 8 and this is a 5. So a 5 would be first and then an 8 would be second. All right, let's do this graph first. So there's that graph. Here's the 8. It runs this direction. Looks like that. All right. So I've got my two graphs right on top of each other, and then I've just got to figure out and means overlap. So if I were to put these two graphs on top of each other, where do they overlap? And it'd be that section right there. For us, that means our final answer would look like this. This would be my final answer. Boom, boom. Here's my 5, here's my 8. And it would just be this section right in the middle right there. So that's what my final answer line graph would look like. And then an interval form, here's 5, here's 8. So final answer is line graph, final answer is interval form. There you go. You got and problems, you got or problems. Let's do another and problem. X less than half. I think this is number 3. X less than, what kind of half did I have? Did I have negative? It was negative half. Let's do one more and problem. X less than or equal to negative 6. Okay, so here's two inequalities. They are already solved. So let's just draw a couple of line graphs and see where we're at. All right, less than or greater than, it's less than. So we're shading to the left. So here's less than, shading to the left. Figure out if you've got a curved parenthesis or a straight bracket. Just less than, so he is a curved parenthesis. Ooh, equal to, that's going to be a straight bracket for the negative 6. Let's look at negative 6. He's also less than, so he is also shading this way. And straight bracket. So we've got to do and so this is how I remember it, and means the overlap. So if I put one graph on top of the over graph, final answer is what? Overlaps. So let's line them up right next to each other. I always put them in order. Negative 6 is more this way. So let's do negative 6. That would be negative half. All right, here's my negative 6 graph. Here's my negative half graph. This was a straight bracket. This was a curved parenthesis. And both of them have the giant arrows. Okay, so what you're looking for is these two graphs. If it's an and once where they overlap. So where would they be in common? Where's the overlap? Where's the common part? It's going to be right there. So your final answer for this, final answer, is just going to be the 6. So this is your final answer that represents your line graph of the common parts, where they overlap at. This will be your final answer line graph, and then real quick you throw in the interval form. If it's going left, is that negative infinity or is that positive infinity? That's negative infinity. So negative infinity, negative 6, curved parenthesis, boom, straight bracket. So there's your final answers. Final answer line graph, final answer interval form. Got them both? All right, those were the equations that had and. Let's do an or one. I think this would be maybe the fourth one. I've kind of lost track. Let's do an or. Okay, so here's your two inequalities that you got to solve for. But at the end, it's an or question. So we just got to remember the and, one of the common parts, the overlap. The or, it actually means everything. So this is your union. Okay, let's solve for this real quick. How about negative 2x, 15 minus 1. Uh-oh, inequality. This is a negative 2. You are about to divide by a negative. If you divide by a negative, you've got to change the sign. So when we divide by the negative, 14 divided by negative 2, that gives me negative 7. It was greater than. Now less than. So dividing by a negative, change the sign. Let's solve this one over here. What do we got here? 18? So that's already negative. We're just dividing by a positive 9. So we don't have to change anything here. Just dividing by 9. So x is greater than or equal to negative 2. Okay, and again, this is an or. So let's draw a couple line graphs, see what we have to work with. Here's negative 7. Here's negative 2. This is a less than. If it's a less than, it's going back left. So when you shade this in, draw this giant arrow, and then a straight bracket. There's your less than. Equal to implies straight bracket. Right here we've got greater than. So here is greater than. Go in this direction. Giant arrow, straight bracket. Okay, so here's this line graph. There's that line graph. The OR wants everything. So when I line these up and look at them, I got to have everything covered. Which is smaller? -7, smaller. Here's -2. So here is my top graph with the -7. Here's my other one with the -2. So OR, when the question has OR, it wants your final answer to represent everything that's shaded. So what would that look like to us? Well, let me just put it up here. So our final answer that has everything covered is going to look like this. Everything that's covered has both of them, the -7 and the -2, and what they're shaded with. All right, so shade 1 going less than to -infinity. Shade 1 going to greater than to +infinity. So that's what your final answer looks like. It wants everything covered that's shaded, has to be on your final answer. Now, written as interval form, you got to get your infinities on there. So here's -infinity, here's +infinity. So you've got -infinity up to -7. You union that with -2 to +infinity. So you remember how the infinities work. Infinities always get curved parenthesis, always get curved parenthesis. Always. This has straight bracket, -2 has straight bracket. Okay, so when you do the AND questions earlier, just the common parts. When you do the OR, you've got to have everything represented for your final answer. All right. Let's do one more. How about last one? Okay, last one. 5x less than 30. We're going to make this an OR question. 8x greater than -8. Okay, here we go. So, OR question, solve inequality, x less than 6, x greater than -1. After you solve them, let's get a couple line graphs to look at. So here's 6, here's -1. Figure out which direction you are shading less than on this. There's no equal to, so this is curved parenthesis. Greater than, so over here, this is greater than. Got that shaded. No equal to, so also curved parenthesis. Okay, this is the way I like to do it. It's an OR question, so I've got to have everything covered that's shaded. I always just put the two right together so I can get a look at it. Let's put them in order. -1 is this direction. 6 is greater. He's that direction. So my -1 graph shades out to the right. -1 shades this way. So there's my -1 graph. And then here's my 6. Oh, it goes back left. It comes this direction. So these are my two I'm looking at side by side. When it's an OR question, my final answer has to have everything covered. So if everything is covered, represented, it looks like from this arrow to that arrow, everything's shaded. So my final answer, oh, it's crazy. You just shade the whole thing in. You just make this giant arrow, you make that giant arrow, and the whole thing is shaded. Oh, that's crazy. So the whole thing is shaded. There's my final answer line graph. Oh, you'll like this. How about interval form? -infinity, +infinity. So there's your two final answers. All right, hopefully this video was helpful to you, explains on how to do some of these guys. So this was for your assignment on page 89. I think you had to do those two union intersects questions, 10 and 14. And then it's some odd numbers. I think it went 15 through 45 odd. And again, these are just the odds. So, hopefully this video helps you with all of that.